War Sovereign Soaring the Heavens, Chapter 784. The rules for the first round of the martial competition. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, and showed neither approval or disapproval. What's there to inquire about? It's simply advancement by battle, the usual. All along the way here, Duan Lingtian had experienced many martial competitions, and he was extremely familiar with this usual method of advancement by battle. Big Brother Duan, the rules of the first round of the martial competition of the 10 dynasties isn't a battle between two people to advance. Feng Tianwu's gaze emitted mysteriousness. It isn't advancement by battle? Then what is it? Needless to say, Duan Lingtian was really slightly curious when he heard Feng Tianwu. I heard that during the first round of the selections in the martial competition, all 100 young geniuses of the 10 dynasties will enter a place in the Skywolf Fort. After that, all of us will be locked within and asked to carry out a battle royal. Once a certain amount of people have died, the battle royal will stop. Without exception, besides protecting oneself properly, everyone that enters must kill others. Feng Tianwu caught her breath before slowly speaking. Chaotic battle? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but gasp. What does the Skywolf Fort think we are? Machines of slaughter. Needless to say, this rule was extremely brutal. At least, it was brutal in Duan Lingtian's opinion at this moment. It was only the first round of the selections, yet the corpses of many had to be used to pave the way for a few, and it was something that was difficult to accept. Moreover, in the eyes of many young geniuses, the martial competition of the 10 dynasties was actually only an ordinary stage. Even though some of them didn't think that they would be able to become eminent in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties, yet they wanted to use it to temper themselves. Duan Lingtian was sure that once this rule was announced, there would surely be many young geniuses amongst the 100 young geniuses from the 10 dynasties that would refuse to participate. It was only the first round of the selection, yet it was already a life and death selection, and elimination was tightly bound together with death, causing one to have no other choice. Besides that, I also heard that up until now, exactly how the battle royal will be carried out it's something only the few fort masters of Skywolf Fort know. I wonder if there will be any special restrictions in battle royal of the first round of the selections. Feng Tianwu continued. Duan Lingtian nodded, and then his eyes flashed. If it's possible, it's best to seek cooperation. Moreover, it must be people we trust. If they were to cooperate with people they didn't trust, then who knew if the other person would silently stab you in the back? So if only people that couldn't be trusted remain to be chose, it would be better to act alone. I've thought it through. I'll cooperate with Big Brother Duan, Big Brother Zhang, and Suli to form a small team. At that time, let me see who dares offend our group. Feng Tianwu's beautiful eyes flickered with a bright light, and her words were filled with confidence towards Duan Lingtian's strength. That's a good idea. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up, and then he flew out to leave Narcissus Pavilion. Let's go. We'll go see Big Brother Zhang and Suli. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian, Feng Tian, and Zhang Xiaoyang had once again arrived at the herbaceous peony pavilion, and then they entered Suli's room and joined Suli once more. Duan Lingtian, the martial competition of the 10 dynasties is tomorrow. What are all of you so anxiously looking for me for? Suli asked curiously. Yeah, Brother Lingtian, what exactly has happened? Zhang Xiaoyang asked. Zhang Xiaoyang was called over by Duan Lingtian, yet Duan Lingtian hadn't had the time to explain before bringing Zhang Xiaoyang to arrive at Suli's place. So Zhang Xiaoyang still didn't know why Duan Lingtian had gathered all of them together. Tianwu, you tell them. Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Tianwu and smiled lightly. Feng Tianwu agreed before slowly telling Su Li and Zhang Xiaoyang about the rules of the first round of the selections in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties that she'd told Duan Lingtian earlier. Instantly, their expressions couldn't help becoming grim. All 100 of us have to enter a place and undergo a battle royal in the first round of the selections. Su Li couldn't help but gasp. Who exactly set such a crazy rule? At that time, there'll probably be at least half of the people that would be unwilling to play with Skywolf Fort. Indeed. Zhang Xiaoyang said with a serious expression, once this rule is exposed, more than half the people will surely take the initiative to forfeit themselves. After all, they only have a single life. Unless it was someone who was especially confident of his own strength, otherwise, it was almost impossible for them to be willing to participate in a life and death selection like that. If what Miss Tianwu said is real, then the first round of the selection in the martial competition is practically capable of comparing to the competition in our blade sect for the position of Master of the House of Swords and House of Sabers. Su Li's eyes flashed as he spoke with a serious tone. Tianwu heard from a Skywolf Fort elder. That person had a silver-eyed Skywolf badge on his chest. Duan Lingtian said, so this information ought to be true. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but smile when he saw Su Li and Zhang Xiaoyang gazes flickered and clearly seemed to be filled with fear towards the martial competition tomorrow. I and Tianwu came looking for the two of you mainly to discuss how to deal with the life and death selection in the first round tomorrow. Su Li and Zhang Xiaoyang's gazes descended onto Duan Lingtian in unison when they heard this. I and Tianwu intend to form a small team with the two of you to face the remaining 90+ young geniuses of the various dynasties and survive the first round of the selections tomorrow. Duan Lingtian spoke of the suggestion he'd discussed with Feng Tianwu. This can be done, I agree. Su Li's eyes lit up. I agree as well. Zhang Xiaoyang had no objections. It was because they mutually trusted Duan Lingtian, otherwise, it would be utterly impossible for them to so quickly arrive at a common view. After all, once they decided to cooperate, it would be equivalent to handing over their unguarded backs to the other, and it required mutual trust to be done. In Su Li's room, Duan Lingtian's group of 4 came to a common view, and they would form a small team that would face the first round of the selections together in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties that was held tomorrow. In next to no time, the 4 of them dispersed. The veil of the night sky gradually descended, and the young geniuses of the 10 dynasties were either trying to improve their cultivations, comprehending concept, or cultivating martial skills. An atmosphere that was serious and carried along slight oppression seemed to be welcoming the arrival of the martial competition of the 10 dynasties tomorrow morning. The martial competition of the 10 dynasties was held by the Skywolf Fort for the 10 dynasties. No matter which dynasty a young genius was from, so long as the young genius was capable of becoming eminent and standing out in the martial competition, then the dynasty would obtain the rewards of the Skywolf Fort. Besides a grade 3 spirit weapon, numerous medicinal pills, and high-grade origin stones, the rewards also included concept fragments left behind by deceased void transformation stage experts. The concept fragments were the most precious amongst all the rewards, and anyone from the 10 dynasties wanted to obtain them. It was precisely because of this that the 10 dynasties would be so diligent towards the martial competition of the 10 dynasties, and it was even to the extent that they'd prepared for an entire 4 years plus for it. 4 years, it wasn't long, yet wasn't short either, and it was sufficient for many things to occur. For example, when the Duan Lingtian from 4 years ago was compared with the current him, it was simply like the difference between the heavens and the earth, and it was difficult to connect the two of them together. Of course, it was in terms of cultivation. As for appearance, there wasn't much difference between the current Duan Ling Tian and the Duan Ling Tian from 4 years ago. He normally paid attention to taking care of his appearance, and coupled with his deep cultivation, the aging of his appearance was next to nothing. It was even to the extent that if Duan Ling Tian was capable of breaking through to the martial monarch stage in 10 years, he would forever retain his youthful look. At that time, he would be able to maintain his current appearance for eternity. No matter if it was 30 years, 50 years, or even 100 years from now, even if the internal organs in his body gradually grew old, his appearance wouldn't change in the slightest. The myriad of beings in the world awoke at dawn, and the entire Skywolf fort became bustling. The representatives and young geniuses of the 10 dynasties left their respective pavilions and headed towards the vast combat arena in the outer fort. After a short moment, most of the people stood in the sky above the combat arena and waited silently. Whoosh! 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 8 figures flashed past and arrived at a side of the sky above the combat arena in the blink of an eye. It's Duan Ling Tian. And that's Blade Sex Sword 13. That's the Darkhan Dynasty's Feng clan's eldest master, Feng Wudao, and the unrivaled beauty by his side ought to be his daughter, Feng Tianwu. Many young geniuses of the 10 dynasties couldn't help but whisper in discussion when they saw these 8 figures descending. The 8 people that had just arrived was Duan Ling Tian's group. Besides Duan Ling Tian, Feng Tianwu, Suli, and Zhang Xiaoyang, there was also Suli's master, Feng Wudao, and another pair of master and disciple. The younger one amongst them was Long Yun, whereas before Long Yun stood a slovenly and bearded man with a broad saber carried on his waist, and the clothes he wore were old clothes, causing him to seem like a bandit. He's Saber 5. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised as he vaguely guessed the identity of this bearded man. Saber 5, the Vice-sect master of the House of Sabers in the Blade sect. It wouldn't be long before he would be able to become the master of the House of Sabers, and his status in the Blade sect would become something only the master of the House of Swords could compare to. The other members of the Blade sect could only look up to him from afar. Duan Ling Tian's group of 6 had met Saber 5 on the way here, and at that time, Saber 5 brought Long Yun to fly towards them before joining them without saying a single word. Of course, whether Saber 5 said anything to Sword 13 via voice transmission was something Duan Ling Tian was unable to know. Duan Ling Tian. I hope you didn't do anything to my foster father. Otherwise, no matter which corner of the world you go to, I'll still not let you off. Suddenly, a voice transmission filled with ruthlessness clearly entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised, and he glanced indifferently at Long Yun. He was able to discern that it was Long Yun's voice. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian looked at Long Yun and replied indifferently via voice transmission. Long Yun, do you think that you can firmly defeat me just because your cultivation has broken through to the second level of the void interpretation stage now? I hope you enjoy the video. Don't forget like, share, subscribe to channels.